So, in this chapter, it talks about biotechnology. So what does bio mean again? Bio means what? Means what? Life. Okay, means life. So this is technology that we're used to affect how people live. It's basically, we'll just make it real general like that. It's, trying to enhance the lives of living things. It doesn't have to be limited to just humans. We could do, different things to make the life better for whatever. For instance, when you go to the grocery store and buy eggs, you can buy what are called cage-free eggs, where these chickens didn't live in cages, which they typically do. For most of the eggs that you buy at the grocery store were chickens who lived in cages. Well, not little tiny cages, but in cages. And then as they laid the eggs rolled down into a trough, and then they're carted off. So nobody has to go gather the eggs or anything like that. But cage-free is they don't live in cages, So they'd be, maybe more grown, like on somebody's farm, or somebody has chickens and they gather them that way. Just has a lot of chickens. So are the eggs taste different? I mean, I've heard some people say the eggs taste so different. I've eaten both of them. I can't tell the difference, but I guess I'm not a connoisseur of eggs. I don't know that. What does a good egg taste like and a bad egg taste like? Question?
I was just going to ask, you have to pay more for the same taste, but...
Yeah, you do. Anytime you test the word organic, for instance, it automatically makes it cost more. Now, sometimes it actually is, grown in a way that, is worthy of the extra price. I don't know, you have to decide for yourself if that's a good thing or not. So, how does the creation mandate apply to these technologies? So, first of all, what is the creation mandate? Let's review what that means. What does that mean? What is the creation mandate?
Like our mission to go out and have dominion over the world.
And expand on that. And how do we have dominion over it?
Gain knowledge and have more people.
Yeah, we help people have live better lives that are maybe more free of accidents and injuries and things like that. That things that we can do to make people's lives better, and not just people, but all living things for that matter. Now, how should Christians respond to the research and application of these? Should we think that if it's technologies, it's automatically bad because it's not natural? No, God's given man the ability to understand all these things and to figure these things out. We have to decide how to use it, and does this use align with Scripture, or will I be doing something that violates Scripture when I do this? So there's things that we discover by themselves are neither right nor wrong. How you use it will determine whether it's good or bad. Now, 7.1 talks about the topic of cloning. Clones. Now, what is a clone? It's an exact genetic duplicate of an organism. Exact genetic duplicate of an organism. Is the only way you can have a clone is if we try to clone an individual or an animal. Is that the only way? Is that an answer?
Yeah.
Do we Do we have any clones at our school? Do we have any clones at our school? Two individuals that have the same genetic information. Well, we got two of them in our room. So Joella and Malin are genetic clones. But remember when we talked about this originally, what makes you you? What were the three things that make you who you are? Okay, environment was part of it, right? A very important part of it. So even though they live in the same house, their lives are very similar to each other, they're still different. They're very different. Also, in addition to your genes and the environment you live in, God also gave them what? We all have this. Starts with an S.
So,
We all have a soul. Okay? Now, if they're genetic clones, do they just have one soul between them? No. Each one has their own soul, right? So, just because they're genetically alike doesn't mean that they're just one individual. We just happen to see them at different points in time, and sometimes we get to see them together, like in this class. I see them elsewhere during the day, and I only see one of them at a time. Homeroom and first hour, I only see one of them. But so a genome is what makes. Have you ever heard of like the Human Genome Project, where they're looking at every chromosome and figuring out every gene on every chromosome? They've done that. Actually, they finished that, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago they did that. There were some people that, whose daughter I had in my class in Phoenix, whose dad was involved in that project, at the Human Genome Project. It's the heredity that's encoded on the DNA that you received from your parents. They happen to start as a single egg fertilized by a single sperm, and then instead of dividing and multiplying and growing into just one individual, at some point they broke into two masses of cells, each growing into their own individual. Now, sometimes I have noticed this, it's been true, but it is, there are sometimes things, real subtle things that are different between twins. Do you have, do either of you know of anything where I have it on my left side and my sister has it on the right side, or anything like that? Have you noticed anything yet?
Normally people just like figure out how to tell us apart after a while, but I can like pinpoint.
Yeah. One thing I've seen in some identical twins, this is what we're talking about, identical twins are natural clones, is that sometimes, you have a colic, places where your hair kind of swirls around, and I've seen it on one identical twin, it was like, maybe like right here, and on the other one, it was right here. So sometimes there's little things like that, and I don't know if that's an environmental difference that makes, I don't even know what causes the hairs to, a colic or to swirl around in a certain way in different parts of your body anyway. But, I knew of one set of twins where that's kind of how we figured out who was which, who was who. Now, so they're examples of what we would call natural clones. They occurred without man's intervention. I'm pretty sure that your mom didn't do anything special to have you. Now, I have twin sisters, but they aren't this. They just happen to be two eggs You know, the woman usually only produces 1 egg a month, but she happened to produce 2 eggs in 1 month. Maybe she did it more often, I don't know. But it was fertilized, each one was fertilized separately by its own sperm, and they both grew inside the womb at the same time. And they don't really look at all alike. One short, like 5'3", 5'4". The other one's maybe like 5'8", 5'9", something like that. One when they played basketball, one played guard, point guard, and the other one played center or forward. You know, one could run really fast. The other one could run pretty good, but giggled a lot. You know, when they would race each other. She always lost because she was spending too much time laughing while she was running. But they're just so different from each other. So, you know, that twins of that kind are not identical. So if you see a boy twin and a girl twin, don't ask if they're identical. I mean, you know better than that, right? Are girls and boys identical? No, so don't answer that question. Now, we also talked about natural clones that, not in the context of humans, but, you know, where it's just asexual reproduction, where you cells, like the strawberry that we talked about, remember it can grow a little shoot off to the side and grow another little plant. It's an exact identical, has exactly the identical genetic makeup as the mother plant, we would say. So they are clones. Or when we cut a potato into pieces, and each piece that has an eye, we plant it, and we grow separate potato plants, they're all clones as well. So cloning is not something that's kind of like new. I mean, God's been doing it ever since there were twins. And we've been doing it with plants, you know, for a long time. Now, how do they go about cloning animals? Now, in your book, it talks about this process of cloning animals has actually been around for like the process for 100 years. The current, I think, agreement among countries of the world is that we won't clone humans. Okay, that's kind of the common agreement. There seems to be, there's a couple, I think, different groups in China who claim to have cloned a human. But they're either very tight-lipped and won't say anything, you know, give evidence, you know, here is the clone, you know, and then allow us to test, you know, their genetic makeup with this, where they took the cell from to make the clone. So some people are not even sure that it's really happened. So we don't know if anybody, but we, as a whole, the world's kind of agreed we're not going to do that. Now, as so many things happen, as time goes along, sometimes we think that the necessity for doing that outweighs what we think is how bad it is.